First, I want to thank Mr. Prello for his time, their team.
Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on this very snowy St. Patrick's Day. I'm so glad you joined us. Yesterday was a rerun. Some of you did not realize that you enjoyed Kelly Fitzpatrick's interview so much, and I do appreciate that. But we are back at it live here on Big Fox. Let's go to some viewer comments, and then we're going to get to some breaking news. First of all, thank you, Frank, for your show. Well, that's very nice of you. Comment from a different viewer. Hi, Frank. Hope you enjoyed the weekend and Wienerville. I'm just catching up, having been down with a bug for several days. It sounds like that bug is going around like wildfire. And sorry I missed a big anniversary. Congratulations. Well, thank you. Friday was our 3-year anniversary here on Frankly Speaking. Well-deserved and so happy to have this outlet. I've been listening since the radio spot, and when that ended, suddenly I was without my fix until I was channel surfing 3 years ago and saw yours truly. I believe I missed maybe 4 or 5 weeks from the start. Just wanted to say hello and thank you to all the sponsors and hope you stick around for years to come. Congratulations. Well, that's so nice of you. Thank you very much. Nice way to start off the broadcast with kind words. Do appreciate that. Yes, Wienerville was a blast, by the way. There's Captain Brian Bender, the new captain, and his wife. Brittany was not there, but those are the new captains. And so you've got him right in the middle, and you had everybody having fun at Wienerville. Great food, great time had by all. Congratulations to another successful Wienerville at the Moose Lodge. They're doing amazing things there, and it's going to the Salvation Army and the Ronald McDonald House, so we appreciate all they do for our community. So thank you to the Moose. That was a blast. Okay. Coming in early this morning, rockets and at least 5 drones were launched at the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad from areas around the city. Iraqi security sources have said, describing the attack as the most intense since the start of the U.S.-Israel war with Iran. A Reuters witness saw at least 3 drones heading in the direction of the embassy. The CRAM air defense system shot down 2 of them, while a third struck inside the embassy compound, from which fire and smoke could be seen rising, according to a witness. And an explosion was heard in the Iraqi capital, according to Reuters and another witness. U.S. Embassy mobile phones were switched off when Reuters called seeking comment. Iranian-backed militias have been attacking U.S. interests in Iraq in retaliation for the war, which began on February the 28th. We're going to talk more about Iran later on in the broadcast, as you can imagine. Wow, we got a lot of waves coming. Everybody's getting excited this morning. We got a couple of quick stories. No real way to segue, but I think they're all very important. Some about the Trump administration, some I don't want to talk about the Oscars, but I think there's a couple things worth mentioning just very quickly. First, here's an idea, just to start off something a little bit, out there. In Minnesota, a restaurant is offering free meals to state lawmakers looking to set aside their differences and dine with colleagues from opposing political parties. Now, I'm not sure if this is even legal. I don't know. I know at the congressional level, you're not allowed to buy politicians' meals. But Sweeney's Saloon in St. Paul is offering the Dine Across the Aisle special until the 2026 legislative session ends in May, in a bid to smooth over tensions between Democrats and Republicans. Owner Will Rolfe sent an email to every lawmaker at the Minnesota State Capitol to tell them about the eatery's free lunch and beer special in exchange for display of political camaraderie. Cool, I wanted to do this because I think there has been this sort of both sides kind of demonizing the other one. I just thought if they don't cooperate, nothing is going to get done. After advertising the deal, 2 representatives, Republican Bjorn Olson and Democrat Brad Tabak, showed up to Sweeney's Saloon to grab a bite and a beer together despite their political differences. A fool and his money are always welcome at Sweeney's, but Republican State Representative Bjorn Olson of Fairmont and Democrat State Representative Brad Tapp are no fools. They got a free lunch and beer at Sweeney's with our Dine Across the Aisle promotion, their Instagram page said. Not everybody has to agree on everything. It's okay not to agree and still be people who get together and still have fun. Rolfe said that Olson and Tabak are the only politicians to take up the lunch special thus far, but he has heard from others who are possibly interested in taking up the offer before the legislative session ends on May 18th. All right, that's one way to heal that political divide. Oh, hey, this is interesting. Again, I said I had no way to segue. From Fox News, a 22-year-old Christian influencer says more young Americans are rediscovering faith as frustration with fake stuff and social media culture drives a search for a deeper meaning. Bryce Crawford said yesterday on Fox and Friends, "We're tired of fake stuff. We're tired of fluff. We're fed fluff through our phones, through desires, through whatever we think is going to satisfy. Every human being is on a quest of love, and we try to fill that void with different things. And I think people are naturally understanding. Wait, this thing isn't working anymore. This isn't going how I thought it was going to go. So ultimately, people don't just want a truth, they want the truth, and that would be Jesus." Crawford is helping trailblaze a faith revival among young adults by spreading the gospel in the streets and to millions of followers on his social media accounts. After growing up in a Christian household, he fully committed to Christ and found peace in Jesus after battling anxiety and depression as a teen. "When I was 17, I planned on making an irrevocable decision with my life because I thought that was the only way to get the pain to go away. And that night I was going to make an irrevocable decision. Jesus supernaturally encountered me and I prayed a prayer. I said, 'Jesus, if you're real, take away my anxiety and depression,' and I haven't had it since that day." That was over 5 years ago, he shared, and the moment placed his foot in the door to give his life to Christ. He is also leading the charge with his I Love Jesus tour, traveling from state to state, city to city, to help spread the gospel and give people a space to unify behind a Christian message. So suggesting that Gen Z is tired of the fake stuff and turning to Jesus. We also learned this is no longer, this was always, again, not segueing, from climate change to the rise of artificial intelligence to the rapture. More adults think we're currently living in the end times, according to study finds. About 1 in 3 Americans in the study sample believed the world would end within their own lifetime. 1 in 3, a figure that aligns with broader national polls, and those beliefs turned out to be a stronger predictor of risk behavior than political affiliation or income. Apocalyptic belief is not one thing. Researchers identified 5 distinct dimensions, including who or what people believe will cause the end, how soon they expect it, and whether they view it as something to dread or to welcome. The specific flavor of someone's end-of-the-world belief matters enormously. People who blame human action for eventual catastrophe perceive current threats as more urgent, while those who believe God controls the end times are significantly less likely to support extreme action to address them. A puzzle the researchers could not fully explain, people who believe the apocalypse will ultimately be a good thing still tend to support drastic measures to prevent existential threats. Wow, that is amazing. 1 in 3 Americans believe we are in the end times and that the end times will come before their lifetime is over. And again, some people believe it's global warming. Some people believe it's God's intervention. Just a shocking number there. Okay, continuing in a segment that there's no way to segue to. Representative Jasmine Crockett has insisted she, quote, fouled all protocols. We're talking about rising star Jasmine Crockett recently losing, probably thanks to Stephen Colbert, losing that primary for Senate. She followed all protocols in hiring a fugitive security guard who had a criminal history and was under federal investigation when he was fatally shot in a standoff with Dallas SWAT. A lot to dissect there. Crockett confirmed in a statement on Monday that her security guard, Diamond Mazerie Robinson, whom she knew under the alias of Mike King, was shot by police in Dallas on Wednesday night. She blamed loopholes in the system for his ability to circumvent the vetting process. She added that her team was unaware Robinson had been acting under an alias and that she was under the impression the fugitive had provided security for additional local entities and worked closely with the Capitol Police. Our team followed all protocols outlined by the House to contract additional security. The fact that this individual was able to somehow circumvent the vetting process for something as sensitive as security for a member of Congress highlights the loopholes and shortcomings in many of our systems. With that being said, we are praying for the friends and family of the man we knew as Mike King, noting that Robinson had worked in and around her team for years. Robinson had gone by multiple aliases to con his way into the Texas law enforcement community, claiming to be a police officer and securing a position protecting the progressive congresswoman. Robinson is also believed to have used his fake Mike King identity to run a website called Off-Duty Police Services that provided cops with jobs outside of work. The Dallas Police Fugitive Unit had been tracking Robinson on Wednesday while he was driving his vehicle with stolen government license plates. Robinson, who was under investigation for impersonating a law enforcement officer, led them to the parking garage connected to the Children's Medical Center in Dallas, where he barricaded himself inside a car. After police used tear gas to force out Robinson, he jumped out of his car and pointed a gun at them. Officers then opened fire on the armed suspect and fatally shot him. Ultimately, cops found 11 weapons in his possession, including a stolen one which he wielded while he was shot and killed. What we're learning about his past doesn't fit the person who we came to know as Mike King, Crockett wrote. His death evokes a range of emotions. Our hearts grieve the loss of someone we knew and the lost good that could have come from his redemption. There was never any reason to suspect that he wasn't who he held himself out to be. He never endangered our team, worked diligently, coordinated with local law enforcement, and maintained positive relationships throughout the community. Wow, what a weird story. We are saddened and shocked by some of the concerning revelations, Crockett said. As a former public defender, the Congresswoman has always believed that people have an immense capacity for redemption and deserve second chances. All right, there's a lot that we covered right there. When we return, we're going to talk about the Trump administration quickly. We're going to get into Iran. We have a lot of New York State updates to get to as well. We're going to hear from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, who's going to join us for Fridays with Phil. But before that, we have a clip from his hearing the other day, just kind of encompassing what we're dealing with the budget process in Albany. I think you're going to find that very interesting. And now the new minority leader of the Assembly, Ed Raw, I have a audio clip from him talking about the HALT Act for all of our corrections officers to tune into the show. So that'll be coming up a little bit later on. And like I said, a lot to talk about with Iran and just some other kind of oddball issues before that. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
What better way to start or end every day than relaxing in your very own Hesselson's hot tub? Massage therapy, relaxation, stress reliever, pain management, soothing muscles, or just spending time with a loved one. Hot water therapy really does make every day better. Hesselson's has been a part of this great community for over 70 years, still being locally owned and operated. So make the drive to Hesselson's and start making your path to a better life today. And after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
What matters most is that our customers, our communities, and our heroes are taken care of. We start by providing American-made gasoline, which means you can buy local, keeping America and your communities strong. We also support vital charities every year and hold Operation Give Thanks each November to help provide a better future for our veterans and their families. We're proud to support the communities we live and work in, and we're doing our best every day to make our towns a better place. Quick though, driving America.
There have always been a few, ready to fight and win. Since 1775, these few have been Marines, and they come from across this land to defend the future of our nation. This year, our Corps celebrates 250 years, and Marines are proud to serve this country, each other, and all that is still to come for America.
Hello, it's a chilly one out there today as we have this west wind keeping temperatures cooler, high about 15 degrees below average as we struggle to reach 30 degrees. Then tonight, bottoming out in the teens, we'll top off once more in the mid-30s on Wednesday, beginning our trend towards some milder conditions. Seasonable is what we have for the most part Thursday through the weekend. However, periods of rain and in the overnight hours, some snow.
Our snowy view of historic Marcus Street, brought to you by Boss Security in Orseds. Contact them today for all your home and business needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Please be careful on your way to school or your way into work. It is very, very slippery out there on this St. Patrick's Day. Comment from a viewer regarding the poll about the end times. There is no way that global warming would be a cause. This is because, since global warming would be indicative of flooding, God sent the rainbow as a sign that he would never again flood the earth. That's a very good point. Good morning, incidentally. Well, thank you. Good morning to you as well. That's a very good point. I think that's what was so kind of interesting about the poll. It wasn't just based from the kind of a religious community. It was some people thought the end of the times was going to be because of AI or because of war or because of global warming or because of God returning, Jesus returning. So yeah, there's a whole cross section there. If you're just joining us, 1 in 3 Americans believe we are in the end times. I wonder what historically that polls look like, because doesn't everyone always seem like you always heard people thought they were in end times? I don't know. Anyway, sad note, but President Trump announced yesterday that White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles has been diagnosed with early-stage breast cancer. She has a fantastic medical team, and her prognosis is excellent. During the treatment period, she'll be spending virtually full time at the White House, which makes me, as president, very happy. Her strength and her commitment to continue doing the job she loves and does so well while undergoing treatment tells you everything you need to know about her. Wiles, 68, appeared alongside Trump at an event in the White House East Room moments after the announcement, wearing a pink blazer, the color of breast cancer awareness. In a statement released while the event was going on, Wiles confirmed, "This past week I was diagnosed with breast cancer. Nearly 1 in 8 women in the United States will face this diagnosis. Every day, these women continue to raise their families, go to work, and serve their communities with strength and determination. I now join their ranks. I'm grateful to have an outstanding team of doctors who detected the cancer early and who are guiding my care, and I'm encouraged by a strong prognosis. I'm also deeply thankful for the support and encouragement of President Trump as I undergo treatment and continue serving in my role as White House Chief of Staff." Now, Wiles is widely regarded by Trump aides as the most effective of his 5 permanent or acting chiefs of staff over his 2 terms, quietly wielding her influence to advance the president's policies while guarding against the infighting that plagued the first term. Unlike some of Trump's first-term chiefs of staff, Wiles is seen as an unwavering supporter of the president rather than one who attempts to slow-walk his requests and speaks derisively about him in private. Yes, that was, especially the first term, obviously the first term, that was a common theme. You had people around Trump who thought that they were the actual president, that they wanted to slow walk what he wanted and do what they wanted instead. It was very frustrating for Trump supporters to watch, because then there would be those anonymous leaks where it turns out many of the people that worked for Trump didn't like him, thought they could be a better president. And that's why it was so laughable when the media kept talking about Trump's picking only people that are loyal. Yep. Just like every president does. In this case, he was successful. Trump added in his statement, Susie, as one of my closest and most important advisors, is tough and deeply committed to serving the American people. She will soon be better than ever. Melania and I are with her in every way, and we look forward to working with Susie on the many big and wonderful things that are happening for the benefit of our country. So that broke yesterday. Also, Trump tapped J.D. Vance. Oh, and we have articles about how J.D. Vance isn't happy with the president over the Iran war, and that's there's a secret Republican, cabal that is trying to start a draft Rubio 2028 campaign. We'll talk about that later on. But Trump has tapped Vance to lead the anti-fraud task force. We know that he already made this announcement, I believe, at the State of the Union. Now it is official. He established the task force to eliminate fraud and tapped J.D. Vance as its chairman. Trump signed the executive order in the Oval Office on Monday, flanked by the Vice President and Federal Trade Commission Chairman Andrew Ferguson, who will serve as the task force's vice chair. White House Staff Secretary Will Scharf emphasized that the task force aims to root out widespread revelations of fraud in federally funded programs in states like Minnesota and California. This is going to launch a whole-of-government approach to rooting out this very serious problem of fraud in federally funded programs around the country. The order directs the task force to establish a national strategy to end waste, fraud, and abuse in federal benefits programs, including cash assistance, food, housing, medical care programs. This is long overdue. Now, I know they had specifically said, and I don't have it in this piece, but when I was reading up on it yesterday, specifically said that New York would be looked at as well, because when you look at that Medicaid bill, it's rife for fraud and corruption. The task force will coordinate measures to improve eligibility verification, implement prepayment controls, detect high-risk fraud trends, and disrupt and dismantle fraud networks and the mechanisms through which fraud is committed. We don't have to go through the whole statement. But the vice president highlighted Somali fraud in Minnesota surrounding a Medicaid program meant to go to autistic children. What this executive order does is force the entire apparatus of the federal government to do 2 things: stop the fraud of the American taxpayer and make sure that the benefits that ought by right go to American citizens and not fraudsters. Also, we learned that President Trump's, I like how the Hill has to word it, hand-picked Kennedy Center board voted unanimously Monday to go forward with its 2-year closure and renovation plan, which is set to begin this summer. In a Monday release, the Performing Arts Center said the board voted to temporarily close the center for a comprehensive revitalization project. The center will close after a July 4th celebration for roughly 2 years, with a grand reopening to follow once the project is complete. The president last month revealed plans to renovate the center, over which he has exerted significant authority by appointing new board members and himself as chair. The new board also voted to add Trump's name to the center in December, a move met with backlash from congressional Democrats who said that only an act of Congress can change the name. Trump urged the center's board to approve the renovation project before Monday's vote. According to the release, it will be funded via $257 million allocated from Congress. It will allow for the most comprehensive and efficient renovation effort, setting the stage for a revitalized national cultural and entertainment complex for all Americans to enjoy. Democrats on Capitol Hill and members of the Kennedy Center panned the planned renovations last month, which came after a litany of performers canceled shows amid the president's expanding influence. All right, enough on that. All right, we got a couple other things we're going to get to, and then we're going to move on to the to issues with Iran. Also, a lot about New York State. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
To the me I used to be, before talking to 988.
I felt alone.
I thought seeing hard things was just part of the job. I thought that having a bad day at work meant I was failing. But then I connected with someone at 988.
A real person texted back. Someone listened without judgment.
Now I know. Now I know it's okay to let someone help me too.
And I'm stronger than I thought.
We hear you. Call, text, or chat 988.
Can you help me?
Mom, Dad, we're going out.
Thank you.
Oh, look, they're playing chess.
What you got there?
Will you help my mom?
She's real sick, huh? Hey, crew, I'll give the first move to anyone who signs up to be an organ donor. How do you do it?
Easy. Just go to organdonor.gov.
You heard him, organdonor.gov.
More donors means more hope. Sign up at organdonor.gov.
When a child is fighting a critical illness, one truth touches us all. Every child deserves a childhood. A wish sparks a ripple of hope that transforms communities far and wide. And when we grant wishes together, we create a movement of kindness, strength, and unity. Yay! Become a wish maker today and be part of a journey that truly.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam. Brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street Corning. A comment from a viewer. Mark writes in, Happy St. Patrick's Day. Well, thank you, Mark. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you, too. I see Trump has asked other countries to help open the Strait of Hormuz, and they've all declined. He told the UK, we will remember. Yeah, I've got a little bit on that. That's, the media's trying to run with it as if it was Trump begging. No, Trump was just saying, get involved here. What are you talking about? This is no brainer. But I do have a couple other things before we get into Iran. I don't really want to talk, unless you do, about the Oscars. Kristen Fleming said, face it, Hollywood, you're boring viewers with your self-righteous, out-of-touch, navel-gazing Oscars. Yeah, here's the thing. Everything was a jab at Trump or Israel. It's so cliche at this point. They're talking to themselves. They're preaching to the choir, and then they'll be praised as being brave and heroic when they have literally no repercussions whatsoever will happen to them. If anything, there's repercussions if you don't act a fool up on stage. But the Oscars is not long for broadcast television. In 2029, it will be 101 years old and at home on YouTube, where we can, no doubt, all tune in to see who wins Best Craft Services. I don't know who this man is, but Oscar award-winning actor Javier Bardem is facing backlash over comments he made during the 98th Academy Awards on Sunday when he presented the Best International Feature Award. He said in his announcement, while announcing the winner, no to war and free Palestine. And he had a pin that translated to no to war, a symbol he previously wore to oppose the U.S.'s, quote, illegal war against Iraq. Critics quickly slammed the actor for what they described as anti-Israel stances. It's no secret that Javier Bardem has spent years vilifying Israel on the world stage. Some even question why he was on stage. Did he have a new film that earned him a spot on the Academy Awards stage tonight? No. The Oscars chose him anyway during an era that can only be described as open hunting season on Jews worldwide. While Bardem was not directly nominated for an Oscar, his movie, the Formula One racing drama F1, was up for awards. Anyway, we don't have to go through all this, but this is no surprise. That's why I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about it. I know fans were somehow shocked that the celebrities left piles of trash everywhere in the theater. You know, these kind of global warming activists. It caused a lot of outrage on the internet. They're calling it a pigsty. The theater looked like a pigsty. And yet we are constantly lectured about climate change and environmental issues. Well, a photo of the theater showing mounds of trash, including water bottles, snack bags, and food debris, and papers and programs, sparked a backlash among fans, according to the New York Post. One commentator was amazed at the mess and replied, "Aren't some of them environmentalists? Where's all that protect the planet energy now? Now they're save the mountains, keep them clean, blah, 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 but look at the mess they leave. Just look at the hypocrisy. Save the planet, my you-know-what. You people, that's right, you people are nothing but a bunch of slobs," meaning these actors and actresses. Trash and filth left behind by the overblown media apparatus known as talent. What a bunch of pigs. And a lot of people talking about the elite making a mess for the lower class seems about par for the course. But we've talked about media's and specifically Hollywood's hypocrisy probably enough. But Liz Peek says Hollywood trashes Trump again and proves just how out of touch that it is. It could have been worse. Yes, there were the usual dark hints about what a troubled world we live in, and at least one reference to Palestine, but mostly the show was upbeat and tolerable, okay? I didn't watch that. Full disclosure, I did not watch it. Of course, people are free to make whatever kind of movies they like, but they cannot make people pay to see them. In 2020, Hollywood elites awarded Best Picture to Parasite, a South Korean film, the first non-English language winner. Friday's Jessica Chang described the story about social inequality, and anyway, this year's Best Picture, one battle after another, carried a strong liberal message. Maybe that's why, despite good reviews, it bombed at the box office. People are tired of being force-fed left-wing dogma. Last month, Ricky Gervais reposted his message on X, adding, "They're still not listening." And he's right. But I think it's a good point here, and this is going to tie in with an update from a story that we had not that long ago on this program. But why does the Iranian women who risk everything to remove a headscarf not merit a red pin from Hollywood celebrities at the Oscar? I think that's a fair question from Hen Mazig. Why is the Ukrainian family, enduring nights of Iranian-made drones screaming overhead, absent from the red carpet's moral ledger? To understand the silence is to understand the discomfort of the Iranian reality. The Dolby Theater is an architecture of amplification. Every gilded contour is engineered so that a whisper on stage carries to the back of the house. On Oscar night, the acoustics serve a dual purpose. They let us hear the emotion in a winner's throat and broadcast the political conscience of the world's most famous faces. This year, the accessory of choice was once again the red Artist for Ceasefire pin, a splash of crimson intended to signal deep concern for the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Among those wearing it, I'm not going to go through all the people wearing it because you're only going to get criticism if you don't wear it. It was a classic Hollywood moment, the intersection of immense privilege and the desire to do good. But as the cameras flashed, I found myself thinking not about the voices being amplified, but the silence filling the gaps between the speeches. Yes, any pro-peace message sounds good at face value, but it does not capture the true intricacies surrounding those facing the harsh reality of war. There's a peculiar physics to celebrity activism. It tends to congregate where the lights are brightest. That's a very good point. It is a recurring Hollywood habit, the tendency to frame one's own experience as a pioneering struggle while inadvertently erasing the reality of those who came before, or those currently fighting far grimmer battles out of sight. While Hollywood stars celebrated their platforms, millions of Iranians lived behind a digital iron curtain. In recent years, as the Women Life Freedom movement took to the streets, the Islamic Republic responded with a tactic as brutal as it is efficient: the total internet blackout. When the regime cuts the cables, they aren't just stopping social media, they're prepping the ground for violence. In the darkness of a communications vacuum, activists vanish and students are beaten. The contrast is devastating. In LA, a platform is a gift used to signal virtue. In Tehran, a platform is a battlefield where the price of a social media post, is often a noose. For many, activism is easiest when it fits a neat narrative of David versus Goliath. But the Iranian regime defies simple categorization. It is a colonizing force that exports instability to Lebanon, Yemen, Iraq, and Gaza, funding the very militias that ensure peace remains an impossibility. The Islamic Republic is the primary engine of the region's misery. It does not repress its own. It orchestrates the cycles of violence Hollywood so rightly deplores. Yet speaking against the regime requires a nuance that doesn't fit on a lapel. It requires acknowledging that some actors are not seeking a ceasefire, but the total erasure of their neighbors and the permanent subjugation of their own citizens. As someone instinctively anti-war, I find no joy in the necessity of confrontation, but I'm more uncomfortable with the lie that silence is a form of peace. Peace is not merely the absence of gunfire, it is the presence of justice. And there can be no justice in the Middle East where the regime is allowed to continue its reign of domestic terror and regional arson. If you are blessed to have a platform, the least you can do is shine it into the corners where the shadows are the darkest, rather than the most talked about and covered conflict like the Hamas-Israel war, which ended months ago. The Iranian people have been shouting for years through the static of throttled internet and the din of protest. They're asking for exactly what the people in the Dolby Theater claim to value: freedom, bold autonomy, and a future free from religious extremism. The 98th Academy Awards were a masterclass in the selective gaze. We saw the pins and heard the platitudes. Until the darkness of the West find the courage to stand up with those fighting the source of the Middle East darkness, until the stars of the West find the courage to stand with the source of the Middle East darkness, their activism will remain what it looked like on Oscar night, a beautiful performance in a room with perfect acoustics while the world outside is still struggling to be heard. Now, Hen Magzik, who wrote that powerful piece, is an author and creator, son of Iraqi and Tunisian Jewish refugees. But that raises a bigger question, too. Why won't U.S. activists, the people, whether it's Hollywood actors, whether it's athletes, whether it is the college protesters, the people we see protesting on the street, why won't they speak up for the tortured Iran women's soccer team? Janata Sayan asked that question. We'll talk about it quickly when we return, and then Iran and some other international stories. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
An albino baby buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized and a bust.
Day one of the National Glider Competition.
Allegiant's flight from Elmira to Myrtle Beach starts May 22nd, 2026. Whether it's a weekend escape or a week in the sun, Myrtle Beach is closer than ever. Non-stop to sun, sand, and seaside days. From takeoff to toes in the sand, your coastal getaway starts right here at Elmira Corning Regional. Mornings on the boardwalk, afternoons on the golf course, and evenings with oceanfront dining or a flight away with Allegiant's new direct flight. Starts May 22nd, 2026. Book now at AllegiantAir.com.
I was diagnosed at 65.
37. Earlier than most.
Every 9 minutes, someone is diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
And every one of them can turn to the American Parkinson Disease Association. Visit apdaparkinson.org to learn more and show your support today.
Parents, we tend to react most when our kids misbehave. But did you know praising your kids 4 times for every time you correct them can transform their behavior and your relationship? And with these colorful praiselets from Boys Town, the 4-to-1 rule is a breeze. Visit parenting.org/praise to see how it works. Request your own free praiselets and explore other great ways to teach love with praise. Because every kid deserves to hear they're doing great.
Hello, it's a chilly one out there today as we have this west wind keeping temperatures cooler, high about 15 degrees below average as we struggle to reach 30 degrees. Then tonight, bottoming out in the teens. We'll top off once more in the mid-30s on Wednesday, beginning our trend towards some milder conditions. Seasonable is what we have for the most part Thursday through the weekend. However, periods of rain and in the overnight hours, some snow
Frankly Speaking roof cam. Look at that beautiful view on St. Patrick's Day. We're so glad you joined us on your St. Patrick's Day, and we're so glad the boss brings us that view. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I just wanted to mention this quickly. We'll move along, but an athlete's silent act of dissent can turn both her and her family into targets of intimidation under the rule of Iran's radical Islamist regime. After refusing to sing the Islamic Republic's anthem before a match in Australia, 7 members of Iran's women's national soccer team sought asylum there, making a desperate choice no athlete should ever have to face. After the regime issued threats against the 7 and jailed their families, 5 later withdrew their claims and left. And yet, from the global capital of women's soccer, there's been no public solidarity. American stars who never miss a chance to speak about women's sports, equality, and courage, like Megan Rapinoe, I don't think I ever say that name right, but you know who I mean, have had nothing to say as Iranian players risk exile, prison, and retaliation for the smallest act of defiance. And what a great point this piece is making. Think about that. You have many of female athletes lecturing very often about women's sports and equality and courage. Yeah, Megan Rapinoe, I know I'm not saying that right, have had nothing to say as these players risk exile, prison, and retaliation. The regime's campaign of terror against dissidents does not spare the athletes it forces to compete under its flag, subjecting them to bans, interrogation, and detention if they display any measure of resistance. And we're not going to go through, they have numerous examples of this, but I don't want to go through each one. Few athletes in the world are more comfortable using their platform for social causes than America's women's soccer stars, which makes their silence here all the more jarring. In America, women's soccer players fight over real issues like pay, recognition, and viewership, legitimate battles in their own right. Rapinoe and teammates knelt during the national anthem in 2016 in solidarity with Colin Kaepernick, dominating headlines for days. And when their activism moves into the courtroom, it is backed by the protections of a free society. In 2019, members of the women's national team sued the U.S. Soccer Federation over equal pay, a case they ultimately won in 2022, using their World Cup victory celebration to amplify the message across national television. Iran's female athletes have no court to which they can turn to air their grievances. Despite their achievements, they are subject to the same intrusive control of their lives as other Iranian women. If women's sports solidarity means anything, it has to include women who risk everything just to play, speak, or stay silent. Otherwise, it's not solidarity. It is nothing but branding. I thought that was a really good point. Nothing but branding. It's just about getting the attention on them. All right, now to Trump. We are going to talk about a lot of New York State issues later on. We've got a clip from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano talking about the budget process. I know you're going to want to hear that. We also have a clip. That's a video. We have an audio clip from the new minority leader of the Assembly, Ed Raw. He's going to talk about the HALT Act. So we've got quite a few New York State issues this morning. What were your thoughts about, well, 2 things that Trump said yesterday? President Trump floated making Venezuela the 51st state after a contingent of baseball players from South America, from the South American nation, defeated Italy in the World Baseball Classic. He tweeted out, or True Socialed out, wow, Venezuela defeated Italy tonight 4-2 in the WBC baseball semifinal. They are looking really great. Good things are happening to Venezuela lately. I wonder what this magic is all about. Statehood, number 51, anyone, question mark. What are your thoughts? 51st state being Venezuela. Trump likes throwing around the 51st state, doesn't he? Also, talking about Cuba, President Trump said yesterday that he expects to have the honor of taking Cuba days after the island's communist government acknowledged it was in talks with the U.S. Trump refused to say whether potential U.S. intervention in Cuba would be more like Venezuela or Iran, while asserting he can do anything I want with the island. During his remarks, I think Cuba's seeing the end. You know, all my life I've been hearing about the United States and Cuba. When will the United States do it? I do believe I'll have the honor of taking Cuba. That's a big honor. Taking Cuba, I mean, whether I free it, take it, I think I can do anything I want with it. They're a very weakened nation right now. Now, we've heard a lot about, the blackouts, the rolling blackouts, and people starving in Cuba. We had a piece last week where people said from Cuba, essentially begging Trump to come and quote-unquote take their island. It seems like only a matter of time, but there may have been thoughts of that in the past too. And it sounds as if the Cuban president, Miguel Diaz-Canel, is in talks with President Trump. After Trump floated a friendly takeover last week, Canel confirmed that his government is in talks with the U.S. Diaz-Canel describes the talks as being aimed at finding solution through dialogue to the bilateral differences we have between the two nations. Trump cut off discounted Venezuelan oil shipments to the island after his January 3rd raid that got Nicolas Maduro. The president also threatened to impose tariffs on any country that sells oil to Cuba. The moves have created fuel shortages on the island that have caused widespread electricity blackouts. Protesters denouncing communism have also taken to the streets of Havana in recent days. And interesting as we see this push towards socialism and communism, here's yet another example of it being a failed system, and yet it still does not stop people from buying into the likes of Mamdani or whatever the case may be. Several Cuba experts and Cuban-American lawmakers believe the island's communist government has never been in a weaker state. It's a failed nation, Trump said. They have no money, they have no oil, they have no nothing. They have nice land. The president also praised the very entrepreneurial people he's met from Cuba who have told him that they would love the opportunity to reconnect with their homeland. So Cuba, Venezuela, and that's on top of Iran. Now, I know a lot of people were saying that they don't want too much of this intervention. Cuba almost just seems like, and this could very much change, but they're falling so quickly and failing so quickly that it almost just seems like it's falling into our pocket. I mean, it doesn't seem like there's any real big moves that need to be made there. Venezuela, we already have Nicolas Maduro out. Haven't heard a lot more about it in a while, but that's very fascinating as well. I see some comments coming in. Some people walking out there, a little cold. Let's see a couple comments from viewers. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. All this talk about the Oscars has inspired me. Sing along with me. Oh, no. Because if I were an Oscar Mayer Wiener, I would be at Wienerville with Frank. You're welcome. Well, thank you. Yes, we had a blast at Wienerville. The Moose Club does such an amazing job. There's Captain Brian Bender. The whole crew at the Moose did such a great job. We had a fun time. And we thank the Moose for all they do for our community. And we thank specifically, because you know Salvation Army is near and dear to my heart, thank them for being so active with the Salvation Army. All right, comment from a different viewer before we go to break. Instead of Venezuela being made the 51st state, I wish the president would make upstate New York the 51st state. Thank you very much. On that note, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
This isn't your father's library. Create with the 3D printer. Release your inner audio engineer or sewing machine rentals, all with your library card. Go to getyourlibrarycard.com today.
Google reviews rank Ferrario Ram the highest customer experience Ram dealer in our area. Returning Stellantis lessee, lease a 2026 Ram 1500 Bighorn with Hurricane engine or Hemi V8. Just $499 per month. $19.99 due at signing. Only $499 a month and it's yours. With America's best 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty. Check out all your Ram favorites during Ram Truck Month.
If you don't see me, I can't save you any money.
Visit Ferrario Ram in Elmira now.
Residence building took us inside so we can get a better look of the conditions inside of this apartment complex.
I haven't had heat all winter.
Human waste, broken glass.
Attention on the building has been placed on the stairwell. As you can look from top to bottom, it is completely boarded.
It's Champ in March at our Declaration of Deals event. Right now at Chilson Wilcox, save $10,000 on Ram 1500 during Truck Month. Choose for 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokees on the lot. Save $8,800. Or get 0% for 60 months or no payments for 90 days. Take advantage of loyalty and conquest offers, plus $2,000 in sell-down bonus cash. Declaration of Deals Championship in March event, now at Chilson Wilcox. Don't miss it. Hurry in today before the buzzer.
Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street Corning. All right, so the Trump administration says that Iran, let me try again. Trump administration has said that Iran has been in direct contact in recent days The Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, the U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff have reopened a line of communication in recent days, according to Axios. That is reported it was Iran initiated the dialogue by sending text messages to Witkoff focused on ending the war, which is now in its third week. The foreign minister denied the report, saying, "My last contact with Mr. Witkoff was prior to his employer's decision to kill diplomacy with another illegal military attack on Iran." Any claim to the contrary appears geared solely to mislead oil traders and the public. A U.S. official named Araghchi was lying that he was the one who initiated the contact with Witkoff, according to the outlet. It's unclear how substantive the purported messages were. Trump saying they want to make a deal. They're talking to our people. I don't know if they're ready yet. He also said yesterday, Trump that is, Iran's military is literally obliterated and that officials want to make a deal. They have been literally obliterated. The Air Force is gone. The Navy is gone. Many ships have sunk. Their anti-aircraft is decimated. Their radar is gone. And their leaders are gone. Trump said the campaign has struck more than 7,000 targets across Iran, crippling Tehran's ability to project force across the region. We've achieved a 90% reduction in ballistic missile launches and a 95% reduction in drone attacks. Adding that the Iranian missiles are now trickling in at very low levels because they don't have too many missiles left. We just hit 3 of them today, Trump said, of facilities producing missiles and drones. It's getting very hard for them to manufacture. Iran's naval capabilities, long used to threaten commercial shipping and regional security, have also been severely degraded. More than 100 Iranian naval vessels have been sunk or destroyed over the last week and a half. That has to be some kind of record. All right. Now, Trump, to Mark's point, did slam China and other U.S. allies for not jumping at a chance to help open the Strait of Hormuz. He said he asked 7 countries to send ships to ensure the narrow shipping lane stays open during the war with Iran. And so far, he has not got any takers. One NATO ally even refused to get involved. Their reluctance comes even though the vast majority of the oil flowing through the strait goes to Asia. They should be not only thanking us, they should be helping us. What does surprise me is that they're not eager. Following the start of the war, Iran effectively shut down the Strait of Hormuz, a critical trade route that oversees the transportation of 20% of the world's oil supply. With Iranian Foreign Minister, as we mentioned earlier, Araghchi, reiterating that the passageway is closed to enemies of Tehran, Trump has reached out to American allies to help secure the strait. China, which gets 45% of its oil via the strait, said it is in talks with Iran to let its ships through. Some ships from India, Pakistan, and Turkey have been allowed through the blockade. Iran has also used that as an economic weapon and is not going to be able to be used very long, Trump said. Numerous countries have told me that they're on the way. Some are very enthusiastic about it. I'm running late. The public response, however, has been tepid, given Iran's dominance over the passageway. Enough on that. Okay. We've got a couple other things about Iran. We've got a lot to talk about when it comes to New York State, and I see that we're nearly done. So get your last second comments in for hour number 1, and hour number 2 will be moments away. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
Yeah, hello. I'm really not sure if this is what you all do, but I really don't have anywhere else to turn.
Hi. I don't even know why I'm calling right now. I'm sorry. My thoughts are going a mile a minute.
My kids are out of state. My buddies from the army are all gone now. I'm really alone.
I left the service last year. My mom just passed away a few months ago. I miss so much time with her. I keep getting calls about the bills, and I'm trying to get a job, but I feel so stuck.
Okay, ma'am. I'm glad you called.
Okay, sir. Let's stay on the line and walk through some things.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Hello, it's a chilly one out there today as we have this west wind keeping temperatures cooler, high about 15 degrees below average as we struggle to reach 30 degrees. Then tonight, bottoming out in the teens. We'll top off once more in the mid-30s on Wednesday, beginning our trend towards some milder conditions. Seasonable is what we have for the most part Thursday through the weekend. However, periods of rain and in the overnight hours, some snow mixing in Friday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. A couple comments from viewers. First viewer, while on the subject of God, I've been pondering over and over just why there is so much inexplicable prejudice against Israel, and have hypothesized the following in an effort to explain this to myself. In the Bible, Jesus was rejected by Jerusalem, and before entering the city cried about this and lamented that Jerusalem, and I paraphrase, would not be acceptable to God until they embraced Christianity or something to that effect. I can only wonder if this is the reason for the anti-Semitism that is widely prevalent in the world today, specifically in the Democrat Party, they said. Also, comment from the same viewer, could care less about the Oscars and never have. I know, me either. It's just worth mentioning the hypocrisy. Thank you for those comments. Comment from a different viewer, Trump should stop all oil and gas exports from the United States if he wants the Strait open. Thank you very much. Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, has been advising the United States to keep hitting the Iranians hard, according to a report from the New York Times. This follows the same advice of the late Saudi king Abdullah, who had reportedly told Washington repeatedly to cut off the head of the snake. Meanwhile, bin Salman and UAE President Mohammed bin Zayed held talks on Monday amid mounting questions over whether Gulf states will continue to avoid a direct public confrontation with Tehran. The leaders said that the continuation of Iran's unjust attacks on the Gulf Cooperation Council countries represents a dangerous escalation that threatens the region's security and stability. Now, they released that audio of Mojabi Khamenei that basically cheated death by seconds, did get injured, but that was when the blast that killed his father. He went out to take a walk in the garden minutes before the blast. Leaked audio from the meeting about the February 28th strike on Ayatollah al-Khamenei's compound revealed that his son, the new supreme leader, Mojaba, was with his father in Tehran while he stepped out to do something. The audio also revealed gruesome details about the strike, with Iran's military chief blown to bits, so that all that was left to identify him were, very little, we'll say that. I know some people are eating breakfast. Ayatollah al-Khamenei's son-in-law was also found with a lot of injuries. I didn't realize this was as gruesome as they said it would be. I should have taken them at their word at the New York Post. As soon as Mojabi was away from his father, Israel's space-faring Blue Sparrow ballistic missile hit the compound, killing Khamenei and dozens of his senior officers and family members, but sparing his successor. Yeah, but it sounds like he didn't want his son to be his successor. Even speaking out against that, did not have confidence in him. The head of protocol for Khamenei's office said God's will was that Mojabi had to go to the yard and do something and then return. He was outside and was heading upstairs when they struck the building with a missile. His wife was martyred instantly. Hosseini maintained that Mojabi only suffered a minor injury to his leg. I've heard various reports on that. All right, that does it for our number one. Stay with us. We're going to talk a little bit more about Iran, a little bit about the Democrats and the DHS vote, and then we need to get to some really important New York State issues. As a matter of fact, we're probably, how am I doing here? Okay, we got a couple quick things about Iran, and then we'll move along from there. Anyway, we'll figure out what we're going to talk about. We've got so much left to talk about. I don't even know if we'll have enough time this morning to get to all of it. I did want to highlight that Assemblyman Phil Palmisano will be our guest on Friday's broadcast, but we're going to hear from him later in the next hour, where he's going to talk about the budget process. That was at a hearing on Monday. I'm sorry, it might have been over the weekend, Friday perhaps, but we have that clip for you, and we're also going to, hopefully, if we have time, hear from the new minority leader of the Assembly, Ed Raw, who weighed in on changes to the HALT Act. So we'll talk about that as well. How am I doing on time? Okay, doing good on time. Keep those waves, keep those comments coming in, and we will be right back with Frankly Speaking, hour number 2. By the way, last week we had our 3-year anniversary celebration. I put that up on our YouTube already. So if you missed Friday's broadcast of our 3-year anniversary celebration, you can find that on our YouTube page, and we had a really fun time. Our guest was Horseheads Mayor Kevin Adams, but all of our guests last week are up on our YouTube or WYDC TV. WYDC.com. You could learn about the Book of Mormon, the Addams Family at the American Express. I know both of those have already had their performances. Chris Moss was our guest on Wednesday. Elmira College, The 12th Night, and Horseheads Mayor Kevin Adams. So if you missed any of those, you can find them on our YouTube page. Now I'm going to take a break. Stay with us. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2, moments away. Please, stay with us.
This isn't your father's library. Create with the 3D printer. Release your inner audio engineer or sewing machine riddles, all with your library card. Go to getyourlibrarycard.com today.
Give kids time. Just 5 minutes a day. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
We are the keepers of the wild, America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
We welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on St. Patrick's Day. Thank you so much for joining us. Have any big plans, any fun plans for St. Patrick's Day? Let me know. We were talking about Iran. I do want to get to a couple other issues, but I did see that Ukraine said they're ready to jump in to help the United States. President Zelensky said, we reacted immediately. Whenever it is possible for us to help defend civilians or U.S. nationals, without second thought, we send our teams. Zelensky's comments came as Trump has been urging U.S. allies to help defend the Strait of Hormuz. So good for Zelensky there. Now, J.D. Vance, this is what the media is trying to run with, that J.D. Vance, that there's some wedge between him and Trump, and this is making Rubio move up in the favorite position. J.D. Vance rebuffed the reporter's question Monday about his views on President Trump's foreign military interventions, saying the journalist was trying to drive a wedge between himself and Trump on the Iran war. He told Real Clear Politics, you're trying to drive a wedge between members of this administration, between me and the president. What the president said consistently, going back to 2015, and I agreed with him, is that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. I think one difference, Phil, is that we have a smart president, whereas in the past we've had dumb presidents. And I trust President Trump can get the job done, to do a good job for the American people, and to make sure that the mistakes of the past aren't repeated, absolutely. Trump, who like Vance ran for office condemning his predecessor's Mideast interventions, added, I don't want wars. I want wars less than almost anybody, peace through strength. That was Trump who said that. But you know what? I've watched Iran for a long time. They're violent, vicious people, the leadership. Do you think they should have a nuclear weapon, which is massive power? I don't even want to discuss how powerful because it's depressing. Trump said that naive people weren't concerned about Iran's nuclear program, which is the most stated reason for the airstrikes that began on February 28th. If you believe that Iran should have a nuclear weapon, there's something wrong with you because they would use it. The only question is within 1 hour if they get it or 1 day. They're either evil or they're stupid, to anybody criticizing Trump's actions. So if you believe that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon, they should not have it, then you have to absolutely love what I have done. Now, the establishment media is lying about J.D. Vance's whereabouts amid the Iran war. And I know we've had this conversation many times, and I like Marco Rubio a lot. So I don't want it to sound like criticism. I just don't understand how the media is writing such glowing pieces about him and I know to that person saying they're trying to kind of use Vance's term, drive a wedge in the administration. I understand that, but it's a little over the top. The establishment media is lying about J.D. Vance's whereabouts amid the Iran war. They say that he has kept a low profile since Operation Epic Fury began. In the 17 days since the start of the United States Operation Epic Fury, which has seen the dismantling of Iran's Navy and much of its ballistic missile program, and also repeated casualties in its Islamic regime, Vance has engaged in 7 public events. And I don't want to go through each one, but they're trying to suggest that he's in hiding almost. Obama's former Obama administration National Security Council spokesperson and current podcast host Tommy Vitter claimed Vance had basically gone dark since the war in Iran started. No long, indignant Twitter essays whining about the media or whatever will say baloney. You think you can hide from this disaster, JD? Vance notably began posting less on X even before the war started, as CNN pointed out. Politico published an article on March 2nd stating that Vance was conspicuously quiet, with his only public activity over the weekend coming on social media. However, he joined Jesse Waters on Fox News later that day. The notion that Vance has gone quiet during the war has received significant pushback. Journalist Jack Poziet responded to a CNN article headlined, "Vance's distance from the Iran war is getting more conspicuous," with a tweet highlighting Vance's comments on the operation that same day. In response to the same article, Kurt Schlichter wrote, "None of that's true," adding that the vice president was out there yesterday making multiple appearances. Throw this in the pile with the garbage about how the mullahs have us right where they want us. Oh, and there's so many examples of that. The Telegraph had one. The talk now is that we misjudged or we rushed to judgment and we were wrong. But yes, it's all over. The mullahs are winning. So then you see this headline. I think this was ABC. Yes, ABC. Some GOP donors plot a shadow draft Rubio 2028 effort as his star rises. So what is it about? And again, I like Marco Rubio. I just think we always have to take with a grain of salt when the media, who never wants to see Republicans ever win an election ever again, starts saying, boy, your best option is, boy, this guy's rising star. He's it. And they go through and talk about Vance. And while the vice president remains well positioned ahead of a likely 2028 campaign, questions are quietly emerging over Vance's inevitability, especially as Secretary of State. Marco Rubio's profile and responsibilities have grown throughout the first year of Trump's second term, most recently around the war with Iran. The long-term political implications of the war remain to be seen. But Rubio's rise has caught the eye of not only some of Trump's closest allies, but the president himself, who in private has been noting how popular and loved Rubio has become as part of his team. People around the president have noted the lavish praise Trump heaps on Rubio privately, but also in public, often starting standing ovations for him and declaring that Rubio will go down as the greatest Secretary of State in history. The president, however, has opted thus far not to formally endorse either Vance or Rubio as his preferred successor. Well, really? In 2026, he hasn't endorsed yet, huh? Maybe there's other things going on. So supposedly there's a draft Rubio movement. They described an emerging behind-the-scenes effort to elevate him within the party and stand up to a potential draft Rubio effort following the midterms, meaning, I guess, Vance. The discussions, according to those sources, are being driven by donors and surrogates who support Rubio, not the Secretary of State himself, reflecting that some in Trump-aligned circles see as a growing enthusiasm for Rubio's rising profile inside the administration. However, in recent presidential elections, donor support has not always directly translated to political success. Donors don't pick the nominee, the base picks, said a senior Republican operative. Donors tried to abandon President Trump and tried to pick Ron DeSantis, and we all saw how that went. Asked about political donors being drawn to Rubio, White House Communications Director Stephen Chung said in a statement to ABC News that Trump has assembled a strong team to work under him and that nothing will deter the administration in its work. The president has assembled an all-star team that has achieved unprecedented success in just over 1 year. No amount of crazed media speculation about Vice President Vance and Rubio will deter this administration's mission to fighting for the American people. So your thoughts on that? The Draft Rubio campaign happening behind closed doors. And that the headwinds are in favor of Rubio. Behind the scenes, the secretary's close political allies have mirrored Rubio's deference, denying that he has his sights on the White House, while quietly emphasizing that they believe he would make a great president. All right, we are, let me see here. You know what, when we return, we're going to talk about New York State issues. Then I hope we have time on today's broadcast. Flyers are facing hours-long line at TSA. We've got the DHS funding. We've got Chuck Schumer's shutdown gambit. It's getting riskier by the day. Thing here about the filibuster as well, but we'll save that for after, because I want to make sure that we have time to hear from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano and also from the new Assembly Minority Leader, Ed Raw. So I want to make sure that we get to that. So let's do New York State when we return. How about that? That sound good? Feel free to change the topic at any time. Again, if you are just joining us, I know some people join us in the 7 o'clock hour. Thank you again to the Moose Club for having a great celebration at Wienerville this past weekend, raising money for the Salvation Army of Corning. There's Captain Brian Bender. You remember him from the telethon. He was down. We all ate a lot of hot dogs and baked potatoes and had a blast. So thank you for the Moose Club for all you do for our community. Okay, let's take a short break. When we return, we'll hear from a couple of New York State issues and then Assemblyman Phil Palmisano and then Ed Ross. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Crispy hot hash browns, sweet savory McGriddles, refreshingly cool iced coffee. Oh, don't mind me, just doing my morning affirmations. Crispy hot hash browns, sweet savory McGriddles.
Mix and match a sausage McMuffin with egg McMuffin, or sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddles. Get any two for just $5 and pair it with $1.99 any size iced coffee.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Did you know that children growing up with poor air quality have smaller lungs and higher rates of asthma than children that grow up with good air quality? And unfortunately, poor communities have poor air quality. IQ Air Foundation is working to change this. Today, the IQ Air Foundation provides filtration technology to schools with poor air quality through our Clean Air for Kids program. Our goal is to help over 50,000 school children every year breathe over 90% cleaner air indoors, helping to level the playing field, reduce barriers to learning, reduce sick days, and increase test scores. Mitigating poor air quality is key to environmental justice. Help Clean Air for Kids reach more children at IQAirFoundation.org.
Hello, it's a chilly one out there today as we have this west wind keeping temperatures cooler, high about 15 degrees below average as we struggle to reach 30 degrees. Then tonight, bottoming out in the teens. We'll top off once more in the mid-30s on Wednesday, beginning our trend towards some milder conditions. Seasonable is what we have for the most part Thursday through the weekend. However, periods of rain and in the overnight hours, some snow mixing in.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Comment from a viewer: the Democrats are kind of dumb, aren't they? Don't they realize that there's Democrat voters out there that they're hurting with no money, no food? They're getting paid though, aren't they? Yes, in reference, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. But yeah, you think about TSA agents who over the weekend quit. I think it was their first, what was it? Weekend without a paycheck, something like that. I don't know. I don't remember what the exact term was because it seems like they've been paid for quite some time. It was first weekend without full pay. So you had a lot of people quitting. So you raise a good point. We're going to talk about that, the TSA and DHS, but I want to switch gears here and make sure that we get to our New York State issues. But a comment from a different viewer. Isn't it amazing that the media never has any news about the Democrats, what they're doing to preserve democracy? The Oscars and J.D. Vance must be slightly more interesting. That's a great point. Now, Hochul, listen to this. I can't believe Politico did this piece. Governor Kathy Hochul's office is using taxpayer money to fund an advertising blitz promoting her agenda, brushing up against a ban on governors appearing in promotional material. State law prohibits elected officials from appearing in ads paid for with state funds. Hochul doesn't directly appear in any of the ads. Instead, they encourage people to visit a state-run website where she's prominently featured, talking about wanting to cut red tape to build affordable housing. Quote, they're skirting the very intent of what the law was meant to do, and that's using taxpayer dollars to promote the image or likeness of the governor, said Republican Assembly member Matt Slater. It's clearly something that needs to be looked into as we can figure out what consequences she should be facing if she is in fact violating the law. The ads have appeared over the past week on Facebook, YouTube, and at least one billboard. The governor's office said a FOIL request would be required to see the full scope. One example is a YouTube commercial that simply states, let them build, and directs people to the state's website. The executive chamber has spent between $10,000 and $15,000 on that ad, one of 21 to air on YouTube or Google over the past week. The ad has been viewed 1 million times. The state routinely engages in awareness and education campaigns on critical policy priorities, and this campaign was designed in compliance with all ethics laws, said Hochul's spokesperson. Reinvent Albany's Rachel Foss said that if the 20-year-old law had been written today, it probably would take into consideration campaigns like this. From a technical perspective, she may not be violating the law, but I think the spirit of the law is not to have the governor's likeness be promoted through the use of taxpayer funds. That was the intent of it. Unfortunately, this is an area where the law hasn't kept up with the way people consume media and ads these days. The ban on advertising came about after former Governor George Pataki ran state-funded commercials during an election year in which he encouraged people to register in a new health care program. Ethics reforms passed in part of former Governor Eliot Spitzer's inaugural agenda included language prohibiting the practice. Hochul isn't the first elected official to brush up against the intent of the law in recent months. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani's likeness has appeared on Wi-Fi kiosks, a practice that's permitted since the city has given the screen time for free. And Mamdani, unlike Hochul, isn't up for re-election anytime soon. Bill Mahoney said she's got plenty of campaign funds that she could be using to pay for these things. Oh, I'm sorry, this is Slater again. What she's doing right now is spending taxpayer money to enhance her image when she's on the ballot this year. Wow. So your money being paid to help Governor Hochul get reelected. Now, Hochul did prepare to show her climate law cards. She's going to talk about that. We're going to hear about that. But first, I want to go to Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. Phil was talking about the budget process going on right now in Albany. And we will bring that up in just a moment. Let me actually, we'll start that now. So we also will hear from Phil Palmisano and Ed Raw in regards to the HALT Act and for our corrections officers. But right now, let's hear what Phil had to say in regards to the budget process.
First, I want to thank Mr. Prello for his time, their team. I really want to give a shout out to our WAM team. They're great. They're helping us prepare, certainly helping me prepare and helping our cops prepare for this discussion. Thank you very much. The good news about this resolution is this is the next step in the budget process and hopefully adopting a fiscally responsible budget on time by April 1st. The bad news, and I recognize this is your priorities, your wish list. Unfortunately, this is more of the same. It moves us in the wrong direction, and it sends the wrong message. What is it? It's more taxes, it's more spending, it's more out-year budget gaps, it's more debt. It does not address the affordability and quality of life crisis facing New York families and businesses. It will continue to lead to our nation leading out migration of more individuals, families, and businesses leaving the state Let's just recoup some of the spending stuff. $250 billion, $272 billion, depending on how you look at it. $9 billion more than the governor proposed, $13 billion more than last year, $80 billion over the past 5 years. Not fiscally responsible and certainly not fiscally sustainable. I think sometimes this chamber thinks it's our money and we forget it's the people's money. Out-year budget gaps of over nearly $28 billion over 3 years. Outstanding debt, nearly $12 billion above the governor. The taxes, already the highest tax rates in the country. We're putting more dependency on fewer and fewer taxpayers who are the most mobile and are able to move and are taking their taxable income with them. I mean, again, 10.3% is our current tax rate. Wouldn't you rather have 10.3% of 10 million versus 10.75% of zero, or 10.9% of 30 million versus 11.75% of zero? Because that's what's going to happen. It's going to end up being zero. Even worse, we're increasing taxes on our businesses by billions of dollars, particularly the financial firms in the financial industry. I and many of our colleagues are very concerned about the negative impact these policies can have on New York financial markets and the broader financial services sector that anchors so much of our state's economy and tax base. It's increasing taxes on the very industry that drives investment, capital formation, and thousands of high-paying jobs. It will undermine our competitiveness, and it is a formula that motivates and makes it easier for these firms to expand and relocate in other states like Florida and Texas, where they already are and who are already competing for these jobs. You see it already. This sentiment was echoed by the city comptroller at a panel during the budget hearings as well. They're worried about that. We're seeing these firms moving now. This budget resolution will only exacerbate the out-migration issue in New York. As I mentioned in the poll, it said 1/3 of New Yorkers were looking to leave the state of New York in the next 5 years. That is not a good sign. And like they said, 40% say cost of living, 21% quality of life, 15% increased taxes. And according to the U.S. Census, we've already lost over 1 million of our neighbors since 2020. Policies like this will not help. It was just going to exacerbate. What we needed to be doing is we need to be cutting taxes, cutting red tape and regulations, cutting spending, strengthening our competitiveness, encourage private sector investment and job creation so our businesses want to stay here, and even better, businesses want to come here. I'd be remiss if I didn't talk quickly about a couple things. Chips, I think that's something I know my colleagues will talk about. That's something that needs to be invested in and have a stronger commitment from that perspective. I think that needs to be done. The corrections officers I mentioned, we need to get them the death gamble. We've done it we passed it before. That's going to be a significant recruitment retention tool for our corrections officers, and we need to make that retirement system for New York City corrections on par with the New York Fire Department and Police Department. Otherwise, we're going to continue to see the loss of our corrections officers in the city system continue, because it's already declining at a crisis level. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't take a little bit of time to talk about an issue I talk about a lot on the floor: energy. I'm disappointed, but not unexpectedly not surprised that there's no pause or delay in the CLCPA, the cap and invest, the EV school bus mandate, the Green New Deal, the energy climate agenda that you've advanced with the electrification mandates. The affordability, reliability, feasibility, fuel diversity, energy choice are not addressed by this bill in this chamber. We can start with the damning NYSERDA memo last week that says it's going to increase the cost of New York ratepayers. What we've been saying since we passed the CLCPA in 2019, the memo, what did it say? It's going to increase home heating costs by more than by up to $4,000, so more than $4,000. Increase the price of a gallon of gas by $2.23 a gallon, above and beyond what it is now. Increase the price of diesel by $2.41 a gallon, above and beyond what it is right now. Will increase utility costs up to 46% for small and medium-sized commercial businesses, depending on the utility and facility size. And it will increase delivery truck operations by 60%. So your food costs are going to go up when they're delivered by food. Your lumber costs, which we have an affordable housing crisis, those costs are going to go out. We're just completely out of touch. You cannot say, as the governor says, she's for affordability when you have this policy resume on your agenda. It just doesn't work. The total cost of the CLCPA, by 3 different estimates, more than $250 billion to $500 billion, the total cost of our budget. things like the July 23, the PSC approved $43 billion to improve ratepayer increases for the green energy mandates, to convert your home over from natural gas to electrification by 3 different studies, $20,000 to $50,000. People cannot afford that. The mother of all unfunded mandates, the EV school bus mandate, which we talked about, increased costs by $8 to $15 billion in replacement costs. Again, why not let the state of New York do it first and show it can be done? Why are we asking our school districts to do and taxpayers to do it a full 5 years before but the state does it? That makes no sense to me, whatever. Why are we asking our school districts and property taxpayers to be the guinea pig for this experiment? There's things we can do. We talked about the rebate. That's good, but we got to rebate. There's $2.4 billion for the energy to provide direct relief. Give that money back to the ratepayer they've already collected from them because they want direct ratepayer relief. They don't want to subsidize someone's EV purchase or electric heat pump. There's the taxes, fees, assessment, and surcharges on your bill represents up to sometimes 20% of your bill. Let's suspend that. I mean, it's nice you want to freeze rates, but this will provide, that doesn't do anything to lower them. This would lower rates. And we need to look at repowering natural gas and building natural gas so we can help hit our supply. Like the NISO said, we have declining generation and retirements, rising fuel costs, pipeline constraints, and the growing demands for electrification are the things driving up these costs. We have major short-term and reliability gaps that need to be addressed. Okay. So we need to do a better job. I mean, the policy, we need all above strategy. Natural gas is a part of it. The technology is not there for the new stuff yet. But natural gas, you don't tear down a bridge before you build a new one, but that's exactly what the policies you're implementing are going to do. And there's more. But I will tell you, we can do better on this. But I will say, we will continue to talk about this issue and continue to advocate for an energy agenda that prioritizes affordability, reliability, feasibility, fuel diversity, and energy choice because my colleagues, New York families and businesses deserve it. And for that reason and many other reasons, Mr. Speaker, I will be voting the negative on this resolution and urge my colleagues to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you to Assemblyman Phil Palmisano for sending that along. We always appreciate it. We got some viewer comments when we return. We're also going to hear from the new Assembly Minority Leader, Ed Rock, because yesterday they did a conference on improving safety and staffing in state prisons. So we'll hear from him. Assemblyman Phil Palmisano was quoted in that as well. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
In the heart of nature, collisions happen when you least expect them. Deer hits can turn a tranquil drive into a chaotic moment. When the unexpected happens, turn to Scott's Collision. At Scott's Collision, we understand the frustration of unexpected encounters with wildlife. From dense to more extensive damage, we've got you covered. When nature and your vehicle collide, trust Scott's Collision to bring it back to life.
Kids Time. Ask them how they're feeling. And listen.
Residents of the building took us inside so we can get a better look of the conditions inside of this apartment complex.
I haven't had heat all winter.
Human waste, broken glass.
Attention on the building has been placed on the stairwell. And as you can look from top to bottom, it is completely boarded.
Having a safe home is essential to many aspects of our lives. From a sense of community and safety, to physical and mental health, to economic security and independence. Most homes in our communities are not accessible and are not designed to accommodate the changes that come with age, including the risk of falling. The Older Adults Home Modification Program helps reduce the risk of falls, improves safety, and increases accessibility and independence. Through this program, Rebuilding Together works with older adults to provide no-cost preventative home repairs so our neighbors can safely age in place in the homes and communities they love. To learn more, visit rebuildingtogether.org/safeathome.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. We've got so many comments coming in. Sorry. Okay. Mark writes in, they should ban cell phones in the New York State Assembly. I see they are not even paying attention to Phil. And also they are getting up, leaving their seats. It doesn't seem like they even care about what he is talking about. That's a good point. I wasn't as observant. I was kind of listening more than watching. So you raise a good point. You see that a lot on C-SPAN at the federal level in Washington, where people are bopping in and out of these hearings all the time. Comment from a different viewer. Phil is right on about the topics that need to be addressed, says Jack. The New York State government needs to set the example, not rule the downfall. Unfortunately, the Democrats are running things and ignore the solution. Thank you, Jack. Comment from, Mark also wrote in earlier, I believe the Democrats and the media are pushing for Rubio because they are trying to put some kind of wedge in the Republican Party, a kind of fight between Vance and Rubio. I think you're right. It's just weird that they keep picking sides. You'd think they'd be playing the end for the middle a little bit to try to get everybody mad, but maybe this is a tactic. Comment from a different viewer. I'm surprised that Trump hasn't found a way to move some money around to prop up TSA. He could make the Democrats look even worse than they already do and look like a star to the TSA families. Fair point. And Ken writes in, I can tell you the consequences Hochul will face. With a Dem supermajority, Dem-appointed judge, and Letitia James in charge, absolutely nothing will be done to punish her. You totally agree, Ken. We're on the same page. The only result will be that Democrats will tell the sheeple to look at how desperate the Republicans are and that they have fallen so low that they are trying to make up issues and spend your tax dollars on frivolous lawsuits. You're right, Ken. It's so predictable that it's infuriating. Comment to Mark. Not from Mark, to Mark. Amen, Mark. Thank you for noticing also. Yes, that was about the cell phone usage and people just leaving their seat, not paying attention to Phil. That is frustrating, now that you mention it. All right. Now, yesterday, do I have time for this? Yesterday, the Assembly Republicans introduced legislation to improve safety and staffing in state prisons. Such things as expanding misconduct offenses eligible for segregated confinement, revising the definition to align with penal law crimes, especially regarding all violent felony offenses, permitting short-term segregated confinement for ongoing misbehavior that is not eligible for disciplinary confinement committed in general confinement, reducing subjectivity in determining rioting or escape offenses, allowing the short-term protective custody and segregated confinement when no safe housing alternative is available, give docs flexibility in administering out-of-cell programming and managing repeat offenders, and expanding considerations relating to good time allowances. So, Assemblyman Palmisano, I thought there was a quote here, maybe not. Oh no, I thought there was a quote from him. We're going to actually hear from Ed Robb. Oh, here it is. Here's the quote. It's clear by the numbers that Hull has been a complete failure since the word go. It has done nothing but make prisons more dangerous for everyone inside. Albany Democrats have created a dangerous powder keg environment inside our correctional facilities by passing along with their other failed policies. The Hull Act should be repealed, but if Albany Democrats are not willing to do that, this is at least a step in the right direction. I want to let our brave correctional officers know that our Assembly Republican Conference and I will continue to have their backs and will continue to fight tooth and nail to make sure that they receive the respect and protection they deserve and have certainly earned. That's Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. Now, let's hear from the new Assembly Minority Leader, and that is Ed Robb. And I just have his audio, but he is going to weigh in on what Phil was talking about as well. Here we go.
From a press release that was issued by the state back on September 19th of last year. The goal of the HALT committee is to provide the legislature with recommendations to enhance safety for both our staff and the incarcerated. We believe we have achieved that goal. That was from DOCS Commissioner Daniel Martuscello. These recommendations are an important step toward ensuring correctional facilities are safe places for staff and incarcerated individuals alike. That was from DCJS Commissioner Rosanna Rosato. This committee's unanimous recommendations reflect a long-term commitment to the state and its labor partners to find common ground on issues affecting employee safety and working conditions. That was from the Office of Employee Relations Director, Michael Beauforte. What we're talking about here are reforms recommended by the committee that looked at the HALT Act. This was a group made up of state agencies and multiple public employee unions with input from prison reform advocates. So our question today is, where are the reforms? We've had a State of the State address, an executive budget proposal, 2 one-house budget proposals, hundreds of pages of proposals, but no mention whatsoever of fixing a correctional system that's clearly broken. No mention of implementing the reforms that Kathy Hochul's own state agencies are asking for and endorsed in that report. The strike ended almost exactly a year ago, a little more than a year ago, back on March 10th, 2025. What's the picture today? 4,600 vacancies still exist. More than 2,500 National Guardsmen are still working in our prisons, and we are spending $50 million a month to pay them. The staffing crisis hasn't improved. And then when we look at the issue of safety, since the HALT Act took effect, assaults on inmates are up 139%, assaults on staff are up 51%, and incidents of contraband are up nearly 20%. Let me be clear, a lot of people here believe the HALT Act should be thrown out entirely, and I agree. But if that's not on the table, the least we should do is implement the recommendations made by the people who know the prison system better than anyone and whose lives are impacted more than anyone. We've said it time and time again, and I'll say it again here. If our correction officers aren't safe, nobody in those facilities is safe.
And we thank Ed Raw for that clip on the HALT Act. We appreciate it. All right, we got to take a short break. We'll get your comments read when we return. Boy, there's a lot of them coming in. I do appreciate that. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Don't have time to go to the gym? The health club is not an option? Come to Hesselson today and see why swim spas and fitness systems can fit into anyone's yard and budget. 12-foot, 14-foot, 15-foot, 18-foot dual temperature hot tub and swim spas are all on display in Hesselsen's indoor and outdoor showroom. Try before you buy. 0% interest-free financing options are available on every Hesselsen swim spa. Swim and exercise year-round and start making every day better. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
New York State nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Com Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
Dr. Seuss's The Cat in the Hat, live on stage. The world's #1 Cat in the Hat show is coming to North America. Young and old alike will delight in this brand new adaptation of the Dr. Seuss classic as it comes to life before your very eyes. The Cat in the Hat.
March 25th at the Clemens Center in downtown Elmira. Tickets at clemenscenter.org.
Hello, it's a chilly one out there today as we have this west wind keeping temperatures cooler, high about 15 degrees below average as we struggle to reach 30 degrees. Then tonight, bottoming out in the teens. We'll top off once more in the mid-30s on Wednesday, beginning our trend towards some milder conditions. Seasonable is what we have for the most part Thursday through the weekend. However, periods of rain and in the overnight hours, some snow mixed.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning. So we want to thank Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. We want to thank Ed Raw. It's good to hear from both of them. Comment from a viewer. The New York State Assembly needs Frankie focus. What a good point. While they're all checking their cell phones and playing their games on their cell phones while Phil was talking, they need Frankie Focus to come in there and, I don't know, scare them. But I think you're exactly right. Mark says to throw the person who texted in about moving money to pay TSA and Homeland Security, it's a good idea. Let's further that. Use the tariff money to pay them. Interesting. Rick writes in, Trump says NATO... he says, good morning, Frank. Good morning, Rick. Trump says NATO faces a very bad future if it doesn't help secure the Strait of Hormuz. I don't think NATO attacked Iran. Donald did. I don't think NATO didn't consider that Iran would shut down the Strait of Hormuz if attacked. Don and Pete did. Didn't. With no disrespect to our armed forces whatsoever. If the world had never seen anything operational like this, they would be more impressed if you open the strait back up all by your lonesome. Don't disrespect NATO, because the way you're running around the globe starting trouble, you'll really need them someday. All you do is blaze a trail of mad people. So after 3 weeks in Iran, you've really gotten nowhere because the same regime still rules Iran. They will rebuild everything you destroyed and become a major threat in the region again. Great strategy. Do I smell a Nobel Peace Prize? I think not. All right. Comment. No, I don't want to read them live. We'll go back to it. Okay, speaking of New York State, and then we're going to get into TSA and like that. Hochul prepares to show her climate law cards as budget talks heat up. State budget negotiations took flight Monday with a kickoff meeting known in Albany circles as the Mothership, and an announcement from Governor Hochul that she is preparing to introduce a formal proposal to change the state's 2019 climate law this week. Potential changes to the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, or CLCPA, are widely seen as the most likely cause of budget friction between Hochul, Andrew Stewart-Cousins, and Carl Hastie as they negotiate the budget ahead of the April 1st deadline. We heard some ideas being thrown around where maybe we'll just give the people of New York $500, which is what, one electric bill? Hochul indicated she plans to propose changing the dates by which the state must meet certain emissions reduction goals under the law by week's end. We'll be announcing them this week. I think we need a longer runway. All the goals we're supposed to meet would have to be met by 2030, 2031. That's not possible without prices going up. While Hochul and her team have slowly rolled out their intention and thought process over the course of months, Monday's comments were the first clear statement that a formal proposal for legislative leaders to consider is forthcoming. Hochul has continued to blame the impending impacts of a lawsuit. So will we see anything change? We know that Stewart-Cousins and Hastie, they have not signaled that they want to go along with this. Many saying that they're drawing their line in the sand, that this is a bridge too far. All right. Anyway. All right, enough about New York State, because we already got to take another short break. But flyers are facing hours-long lines at the TSA as TSA agents, I guess, quit. This was without their... It said 1 month into the partial government shutdown, hundreds of Transportation Security Administration workers going without full pay have quit, while others have been unscheduled time off, prompting more travel headaches as winter storms slam the Midwest. A number of travelers are facing long airport security lines, including at Hartsfield. Well, we don't have to go through each one, but you're looking at 2-3 hour lines. More than 300 TSA agents have quit, according to the Department of Homeland Security. Last week, TSA workers missed their first full paycheck since the partial shutdown began in mid-February after funding for DHS, which oversees TSA, lapsed amid a standoff between Republicans and Democrats over federal immigration reform. Wow. Okay. Democrat senators say they want to end the government shutdown, but have repeatedly blocked GOP attempts to reopen the Department of Homeland Security as they push for immigration enforcement reforms. On Friday, Senator Elise Slotkin, Democrat from Michigan, said at a news conference following an anti-Semitic attack on the Temple Israel Synagogue in her state that certainly Congress must fund DHS. However, Slotkin and most Senate Democrats have voted 4 times to block DHS funding, including several attempts to temporarily reopen the agency while negotiations continue. Slotkin is just one of several Senate Democrats calling for an end to the shutdown. Republicans argue the votes are part of a broader Democratic strategy to blame them for blocking efforts to reopen DHS. Senator Roger Marshall, a Republican from Kansas, accused Democrats of trying to shift the blame for the shutdown. Well, that's what they do, right? And they're good at it. They're really good at it. And the big difference is they have 90% of the legacy media backing them up. That's exactly it. That's why I don't think this one you can't even be lied to about how good this partial shutdown is, because the media has really stopped reporting on it as much as they possibly can because they realize it's not a winning argument. So it's hard, but again, 4 times this afternoon, the Democrats voted against funding DHS. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer accused Republicans of using the federal workers of a variety of agencies under DHS, like the TSA and FEMA, as hostages. I remind my Republican colleagues we're going to be back here again and again, winning this debate and eventually winning the American people. Wait, winning the debate and then eventually winning the American people? So admitting there, what we all know, this isn't working for the American people. They haven't bought into the lies that Chuck Schumer and the Democrats have been pushing. And that interesting, the way he worded that, which many Democrats saying, where was it? Now I lost it. But about saying that I wanted to quote it exactly. There we go. And eventually winning the American people. Slotkin said, we need, in my view, to cut away all the conversation on ICE, which is its own conversation. Republicans have sharply criticized Democrats for denying funding to DHS, despite a series of terror-related attacks across the country and a heightened threat environment due to Iran. And we can go through some of the things that have happened recently. It's not clear that enough Democrats would be willing to fund CBP while still negotiating reforms to ICE to end the shutdown. Senator John Fetterman has been the lone Democrat so far to cross party lines and support a full-year DHS appropriations bill. All right. So we'll talk a little bit more about this, but Van Jones says that Democrats have to stick to their guns on DHS shutdown. Saying, no, I think Democrats have to stick to their guns. This is Van Jones, former Obama administration official, works for CNN. Because as inconvenient as it is in an airport, it's a lot more inconvenient to have ICE agents doing all kinds of terrible stuff, and they should be put back in a box. However, I was in Austin trying to leave South by Southwest. I had a 6 a.m. flight. I got there at 3 a.m. There were people literally outside wrapped around. It was complete, unbelievable lines. I had pre-check and clear. I barely made my flight. And then they pulled the plane out because it's time to go, but the plane's only half full and the bags are there. So we literally had to sit on the tarmac for an hour and then come back to rebalance the plane. Meanwhile, the people who could have made the plane balanced were stuck. It was just, the whole thing was so nutty. Stick to your guns, Democrats. We got a couple other things on this when we return. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Some people who need Social Security disability benefits go to their hearing alone and get turned down. Not every lawyer will appeal a denial after your hearing. I will. I'm Peter Gorton of Lockman & Gorton. I help people win benefits by appealing their denials, including in federal court. But your time to appeal is limited, so call my office now.
Lockman & Gordon, 1-800-698-0567.
Accident. If you're looking for an honest, dependable, trustworthy auto repair shop, bring it to Nappy's. Or if it's undrivable, have it towed right to us. It's your choice where to take your vehicle. Nappy's works with all insurance companies and will manage all vehicle calibrations. Nappy's has a state-of-the-art paint booth and a new and improved repair shop. Let our friendly staff of specialists help you through the process and get it done right the first time. Commit to Nappy's, family-owned for 3 generations.
Thank you for your business.
Google reviews rank Ferrario Jeep the highest customer experience Jeep dealer in our area. Returning Stellantis lessee, lease a new Grand Cherokee Laredo X, just $329 per month. $19.99 due at signing, only $329 a month, and it's yours. Check out all your Jeep favorites during our declaration of deals.
If you don't see me, I can't save you any money.
Visit Ferrario Jeep in Elmira now during our declaration of deals.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hasselson studio. Comments from viewers. What a lot of people overlook is the fact that Iran declared war on the United States. Trump did not start the war. Iran did. Thank you very much. Ken writes in, I agree with Mark and would offer that somehow we the people need to force our legislators in New York, and for that matter at the federal level, to treat their elected positions like the job it is. We didn't elect them to not attend sessions, to be on their cell phones when in attendance, to talk amongst themselves when others have the floor. In general, their job is to be involved full-time and actually work for the people instead of themselves. I think a chamber monitor would be a great idea. When someone is not focused on the work, the speaker should be stopped and the violator should be called out for job negligence. Unfortunately, since they would have to pass a law to monitor themselves, any accountability will never happen. Yes, I thought you might unfortunately reach that conclusion, Ken, but you're right. It's just like, I mean, they're not. It's just like term limits. They're not going to vote themselves out of a job. They're not going to vote themselves to be held accountable. But it is a great idea. Absolutely it is. All right. The Post editorial board says the United States saw 4 terror attacks on its soil in just the 2 weeks since the Iran war began. Yet Democrats voted yet again last week to defund Homeland Security. And that's the way you need to put it, defund. Are they trying to help the terrorists? They also seem to hate TSA workers and flight passengers. Chaos has reigned at airports around the nation with hours-long security lines. The shutdown has prompted 300 agents to quit and others to take unscheduled leaves rather than work without pay. The defunding's latest horror? The Department of Homeland Security's Office for Bombing Prevention just canceled a training class on how to handle IEDs. The OBP had to do that even though Islamic terrorists tossed 2 of those very devices near Gracie Mansion just days before. Not to mention the terrorists who drove a truck filled with flammable liquids and fireworks into a Michigan synagogue packed with the kids. The OBP is operating with only 6 of its 18 instructors. Brilliant. Well, actually, it's unthinkable. Airport misery and flight safety are bad enough, but defunding bomb prevention at a time like this. Dems are holding the nation's security and air travel hostage in a purely symbolic protest to prove their hatred of ICE to their base. The funding cutoff doesn't even hit ICE, which already got ample cash in the big beautiful bill. Yet the donkeys just won't budge, even as the pain and risks mount. No matter what they're dumping on some of the very people unionized TSA workers, Democrats claim to champion. Massive security lines have plagued airports. Storms are adding to the nightmares with more than 8,000 flight delays, 3,800 cancellations. None of that stopped 46 Senate Democrats from killing a stopgap funding bill for DHS last week, using the filibuster to prevent a floor vote that would pass it. It's well past time for Democrats to end the games and think about everyday Americans for a change. If they don't, Americans who want protection from terror and sanity at airports should remember them when they vote in November. We have one other thing on this, 2 other things. And then we're going to call it a day. So stay with us. Get your last second comments in, and we'll be right back.
Hi, this is Tom Witzel, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is a start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
In Albina, Buffalo, was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day 1 of the National Glider Competition.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital. I feel like a fish with no water.
You know how to react to their asthma attacks. Here's how to prevent them. Because even one attack is one too many.
Hello, it's a chilly one out there today as we have this west wind keeping temperatures cooler, high about 15 degrees below average as we struggle to reach 30 degrees. Then tonight, bottoming out in the teens, we'll top off once more in the mid-30s on Wednesday, beginning our trend towards some milder conditions. Seasonable is what we have for the most part Thursday through the weekend. However, periods of rain and in the overnight hours, some snow mixing.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Ken writes in and says, my wife has a question for you. Is Acom Irish, and is it ham and cabbage or corned beef and cabbage? It isn't Irish. It's English. Acom is English. But for me, personally, I love corned beef and cabbage. So for me, it's corned beef and cabbage all day long. And I will be having corned beef and cabbage tonight and leftovers tomorrow, and the rest of the week will be corned beef and cabbage. I love it. That's why I like celebrating St. Patrick's Day, for the amazing food. So thank you for the question, Ken's wife. Appreciate that. All right. Next time your flight's delayed or canceled, or you're stuck in an endless TSA line, thank a congressional Democrat. Senate Democrats have decided to make a show of their support for lawless immigration by inflicting pain on American travelers. They've blocked funding for the Department of Homeland Security, which includes the TSA, even though their stunt doesn't affect the budget of the actual agency Democrats really want to hurt, ICE. That means airport security workers aren't getting paid, so many aren't showing up, or they're quitting to find jobs Chuck Schumer can't hold hostage. It's bad enough congressional Democrats are taking their anger at immigration enforcement out on American travelers. What's yet worse is they're doing it at a time of war. Do we want less secure airports or unhappy unpaid agents at a moment when terrorist attacks are more likely? Senator Schumer shouldn't wait until someone blows a plane out of the sky before rethinking his tactics. There is no good faith reason for Democrats to turn their outrage at ICE into a shutdown of other DHS divisions. They're playing a legislative game with other people's livelihoods, their travel time, and their very lives. DHS says more than 300 TSA agents have already quit during the partial shutdown. Who can blame them? Do Democrats expect them to work for free? This isn't a shutdown forced on Congress by difficult decisions about the debt ceiling. This one's gratuitous, motivated by pure partisan angling. Schumer and company are keen to use ICE as a midterm campaign issue. They hope the deaths of two left-wing activists during anti-ICE protests in Minneapolis this winter will scare independents into opposing Trump's immigration policies. But they also need to appease the progressives in the party's base who actually want more illegal immigration. The Democrats keep trying to have it both ways, presenting themselves as willing to countenance some restriction on immigration while pandering to a hardcore of activists who demand immigration to be limitless, even if that means it's also lawless. And we don't have to go through the whole history of it. We know the whole history of it. And we talked about TSA, but ending the pain of this partial shutdown doesn't have to wait on any new laws. Schumer can end it today. If he chooses not to, keep him and his colleagues in mind next time you're waiting for hours in a TSA line. The Senate Democrats did that to you because they wanted to make a point. Come November, you can make a point yourself. All right, Schumer also talked about the SAVE Act. He said the Save America Act is despicable and that Trump wants to cheat in midterms. They're so predictable, aren't they? Nothing is more important than defeating this dagger to the heart of our democracy. That's all because we want voter ID, folks. Sergeant Dave writes in this morning. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Sergeant Dave. The last statement you said was spot on, except for one thing. This is all about TDS syndrome. They don't care, the Democrats, how bad things get. They just can't say he's done anything right. You're exactly right. David Marcus said, in an age of broken institutions, the filibuster is one relic we cannot afford. Sadly, that is what the filibuster has become today, an excuse for our legislators to do nothing as non-government institutions continue to firm their grip on American society. There might have once been a time when the filibuster made sense, but now is not that time. Now is the time for the people's government to take back power from our broken far left institutions. That does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. I hope everybody has a wonderful St. Patrick's Day. Don't overdo it. Well, who am I to tell you? Do whatever you want. But I hope that you have a great St. Patrick's Day. Have a lot of great food, good times, friends. And we will be back tomorrow morning, bright and early, starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking. Here on WYDC TV, Big Fox, we will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. I look forward to it already. Have a great one.
At William Mattar, they
only handle motor vehicle accident cases.
No, we're not going to take any low-ball offers.
There's nothing William loves more than fighting for his clients and giving them the big money they deserve.
Okay, wow.
But everyone needs an outlet, a chance to get away from it all.
Heads bowed, eyes closed, and now go to your happy place.
Rideshare truck, motorcycle, car, only call William Matar.
At Simmons Rockwell Nissan, lease a brand new 2026 Nissan Sentra SV front-wheel drive sedan with no money down for only $299 a month for 39 months. Make car buying simple. Drive your deal at Simmons Rockwell Nissan in Horseheads and Hornell.